Trade Union CWU, thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Talk to us about your reaction to the SABC's plan to retrench these workers.
Well, firstly, we must indicate that we are shocked by the news that SABC have decided to embark on what we term as a public jamboree, because we have met with them a couple of weeks ago, and we have agreed that they came to that meeting unprepared, with no numbers and so forth, and we have said that the next meeting that must take place must be under the auspices of CCMA in line with Section 189. So what we see SABC is doing is basically not undermining workers of SABC, not only undermining the labor, but it's basically undermining the law of this country, because it stipulates clearly what you need to do to embark on the retrenchment. What they are doing now, they are engaging public that cannot engage them back. And this is the same executive that when it came in, it employed people on lucrative contracts that added in the bill that they're complaining about. Now they come back a couple of months down the line to say that they have these challenges. More so, we have an army of managers at SABC, over 900 of them, in a staff complement of 4,000. That is the question that we must ask, to say, how much is it paid to this executive that is jumping around to go to workers and not paying to workers? But in addition to that, we have what we call the freelancers, who basically for over years have worked for 8 hours a day, even more at some of the times, which indicates that there's a need for those workers that are at SABC. We are moving to digitalization, which will be more channels that are needed, which will need to talk about the reskilling of labor and also having employed more. But this management seems to us that they've run out of ideas, basically.
So as the CWU, with all this litany of issues that you've raised, what have you done to ensure that this gets fixed as a union that's supposed to be there for workers?
Basically, when we look at these managers, we are basically milking a stone here. We have tried to engage them. We don't know this turnaround strategy that they are talking about, because when you look at the revenue of SABC, we have to talk to the public, the funding model of SABC. And we have to bring in the regulators into this space. We have already engaged with the Minister of Communication, Nomvula Mkonyane, on the matter. We have said, how do we therefore deal with the revenue of SABC? One of the things that when you bring in the regulator, the OTTs that are basically, because of the fourth industrial revolution, the digital economy, broadcasting for free in this country, they must pay a certain levy to balance the equation in terms of the funding model of SABC. That's one area. But there's a number of other things that can be looked into to drive the SABC forward.
I'm just asking that question because it is a question that I've asked a lot of the times with unions, especially when it comes to the SABC. We know that it's an institution that has been plagued by a litany of issues. We know that they are struggling financially, and we know that they need to deliver on their mandate, because that's the most important thing. If the board and if the management of SABC is saying we are hamstrung, there's nothing else we can do, despite what unions believe, we need to retrench in order to make sure that South African citizens are informed, entertained, and given news that's, independent, impartial, entertain people, make sure they have their sports. And the only way we can do this is to cut jobs. What do we do then? Well,
it's surprising. The shareholder and the sole shareholder of SABC, which is government, has not been consulted. So you can't therefore run amok and say people must be retrenched if you have not consulted your shareholder. Even to the drive to say, if we need to bail out SABC, what are the remedies that must be put into place, the accountability and so forth that must be looked into place. That has not been done. The turnaround strategy, they've done it alone. They couldn't answer questions at the portfolio committee when they were put there. They were just all over the show. But what we have to drive is that SABC is not a private institution. That must sink into their minds, because how they are driving this is they are measuring the salary. They say it's over 40%, as if that we are running a private institution. SABC, of course, the salary will be over 40%. Why? Because there's a public mandate that has to deliver on, and largely does not generate revenue. We have the children programs, school and so forth, that we have to drive. They don't generate revenue like a private institution. So it must sink in these executive members that this is what we are driving, a public broadcast. So if they are not fit to run a public broadcast, they must tell us so that we can be able to look into that area.
Just two counters to that. The first one is that, yes, they're not a private institution, but we cannot have an institution like a lot of our state-owned enterprises that are bleeding money, that are always requesting bailouts, because they should be able to function as going concerns. That's the first one. And the second one is, even though Minister Mokonyane has said that she's not happy as Minister of Communications with the fact that people are going to be retrenched, although she is the shareholder, she cannot dictate what the SABC should be doing and how exactly they should be running it, because there was a court case about that, about the levels of interference and how the SABC should be accountable but not dictated to.
I think I'll address that later, the issue of interference at the political level. But first and foremost, the shareholder said a couple of weeks ago, through the president of this country, we must create jobs. That's the first point. The second point, the Minister of Finance last week said that there must be reconfiguration of SOEs. You can't therefore have the SOE championing the reduction of jobs. So basically we have to engage on this process.
Thanks so much for your time, Aubrey Tshabalala from CWU, a conversation that I'm sure will be continuing as this issue continues. SABC looking at retrenching thousands of employees here. It's time for a short